hearing you right now. Hey, good evening, TDN listeners and viewers, especially the audience of this week in interview. Welcome, a very hearty and warm welcome to you into 2026. It's the 16th season of this week in interview. So this is the first episode of the 16th season of this week in interview. And so I guess this week in interview is coming of age. It's our sweet 16th year. And so I'm very delighted to be able to be here and to celebrate the durability of the program. But at the same time, I am very much interested in seeing how we can evolve the program and how we can take it, we can level up, so to speak. And so welcome, as I said, again to 2026. And this year, early this year, this first quarter, I'm going to be leaning on you to give us some ideas, give us your suggestions, your recommendations of how we can grow the program to where it needs to be. So, how was your holiday season? Uh, how was your Christmas? If you celebrate Christmas, how were your holidays? Um, I hope you had a good time. I hope you had a chance to rest. But as we enter the new year, the question I have for you is what are your goals and your aspirations? So the big word aspirations, but really it just means where do you want to be this time in 2027? So if you look back at the end of 2025, where and in January of 2025, where did you want to be at the end of 2025? At the beginning of 2026? And and you look back now, are you happy with the progress that you made? I know during 2025, I brought on Dr. Triffy, I brought on Cleo Michael, Miss Michaels, and we spoke about goal setting, we spoke about achieving our goals. And, it's not necessarily the cliche of New Year's resolution. However, occasions, milestones, are a good time to take stock and to plan going forward. And so the start of the year is ideally suited for that because so many things are measured in that 12-month period. So you could measure your progress, and progress is whatever it means to you. Where do you want to go, and are you moving towards that goal? And so I encourage you, if you haven't done so as yet, to take stock, look back on 2025. Where did you kill it? Where did you just go gangbusters and achieve your goals? And where did you, fall down, panting, burnt out? And so, excuse me, I wish you increased vigor, renewed vigor, I should say, as you set out um, on this year's journey. Because they say every day is a new beginning. Every week is a new beginning. Every month. Some people you plan their life by the week. Some people plan their lives by the month. But a year is a good time. So you have a 12-month span. And sometimes you do like a 36 month or 3 year goals. But if you take care of what's required in the 12 months, it is going to move you towards your 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 3 year goal. And so we really it's really important that you stop and think about that. That's why I'm spending time on it. I think it's important that every so often we should stop and reflect. That will ensure that we are more conscious, as Rastaman say. You have to be conscious, conscious vibration. So the consciousness is to really be aware of where you are, and based on that, how you use your resources. And number one resource is time. How do you allocate your time? Does it reflect what you say your priorities are? The second resource is your relationships with people. How are you using those relationships to also further your goals, and does the emphasis on your relationship reflects your priority? So one of the things that especially those of us who are raised in families, you say, okay, what's the most important thing to you? Most people say my family. But if you were to keep a diary or a journal for 1 week, and you add up all the time you spend with your family versus the time you spend doing all the stuff, will those numbers support your claim that family is the most important thing to you? And I'm just using that as an example. Whatever is important to you is what is important to you. But so by pausing and really uh, by pausing and taking stock and making a plan, it it lends itself to us living more intentionally and more on purpose, and not by accident. Like you wake up in the morning, you go about your business, you had 5 things planned, but at the end of the day, you did 10 things, but none of those 5 things that you had planned is what was done. And so I encourage you to set those goals. And how are you going to set your goals? You can choose categories. I really think that the number one category that you should choose is health, your health. Uh, what are the goals that you have for your health, right? That's because you can have everything else if you don't have the health to enjoy it or to execute what you are looking at, then it was a waste. You can have the most amount of money in the world, right? But if you don't have the health to enjoy it, what's the point? I mean, the classic example that comes to mind is Steve Jobs. So set some goals for your health. Do you need to lose some weight? Do you need to put on some muscle? Do you need to control your blood sugar level? Do you need to control your blood pressure? Are you going to your doctors for your checkup, as they say, on a regularly? Are you checking your eyes? Are you? When was the last time you did a colonoscopy? If you're at that age, when was the last time for the women you did your pap smear, your breast exams, and all of those things? So I really want you to set goals, and if the number one goal that I want you to set is your health goal. All right. You can have others. Some other people, a lot of people like to set goals for the year, financial goals, but your goals should be measurable. So if you, it's not enough to just say, well, I want to be better off. Is there a certain amount of money you need to have in your savings account? Is there an amount of money you have in your investment account? Is there, do you need to change your job so you can earn more? Write them down, write them down, because the evidence and the research shows that when you write things down, you internalize them and you give yourself a better chance to succeed. Because if you have them written down, you can refer back to it and say, oh, what is it I said I wanted to achieve again? What was I supposed to be doing? It's March, it's the end of the first quarter. Where am I with that? So it's always good to write them down. What else? Uh, so folks, that's kind of like where I want to go today. There's a lot of things happening, many things happening, geopolitically, economically, socially, and so on. But I really want us to be more intentional today. All right. So this is why I want to say thank you to you for all the support that you gave us in 2025, and I look forward to your continued uh, support in 2026. We are going to try to good evening, Phil Senior. Uh, Happy New Year. Hope you and the family are doing well. Uh, Phil Senior, my grammar school classmate. But we So that's what I want us to really just continue to support the program, help us to grow it, because there is a vacuum in the media, especially in Dominica, where we can, TD and I think, can step into that gap and play that role. And so I'll be coming to you for recommendation and advice. And we have a lot of people on TDN and they do their stuff and they all voluntary. Nobody gets paid. But mm, payment is not the only expense that we have at TDN Radio. We know we have hosting expenses, we have apps, we have software, we have um, product development, and so on. And so from time to time during the year, I plan to appeal to you to make a small donation, whatever it is that you can. Drop it in the hat, and it will go a long way in helping us to grow and to be there for you when you need a voice. Because that's what we do. We provide a voice for a lot of folks to reach an audience where they may not necessarily uh, be able to afford it on those commercial radio stations. So we'll come to you for that sort of support. RVR Jams Radio, they carry this weekend interview live on DigiPlay channel 59. Thank you for doing this in 2025, and I look forward to continued collaboration with you, as well as online radio SBE in the Toronto market. They as well carry this weekend interview live. And there's a few other stations that carry it after the fact. We have social media, and I'm going to be calling on you that if you haven't subscribed to the program, I want you to subscribe, because as the numbers grow, you help us to achieve our milestones and our goals, and therefore we can make sure that we are here for another 16 years, bringing you some really good information, some entertainment, but a lot of information. And so those of you who came, there are some folks who listened to every single program that we had for 2025. A lot of you. Uh, and I thank you for that. It makes me feel good that you placing a value on what we do, that you come back week after week on a regular basis. And so my regular listeners, I want to say thank you for that support. And as we go forward, thank you as well. Now, excuse me, we have a lot to talk about this year, okay? Especially when it comes to Dominica and the Caribbean. There's a whole lot that's going on. By the way, Alvin Thomas might join me a little later. I'm not sure because he had a prior engagement, but he really wanted to come on the first program of the year to really discuss, so we could have a back and forth discussion. But in Dominica, we are witnessing right on at the turn of the year, as 2025 was turning into 2026, we saw a lot of activities in Dominica that cause us concern. The biggest one is the 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 degradation of this degradation, the destruction of the environment in Dominica, in an area called Debwash, right the boundary on our forest reserve. It seems as though the government has been in some kind of arrangement with, I don't know if it's a Chinese private company, if it's a Chinese embassy, but they're doing a really, really good job of destroying a whole mountain. And while they're at it, so much dirt and stuff gets into the river. Uh, that area, the government is saying that they're going into that area because they need a rock for the international airport project that's ongoing. The thing about it is that Dominica has numerous quarries. In fact, one of the few exports that Dominica has on any scale is the export of our aggregate and for construction. And so when you hear the government says that they have to basically take down a mountain and destroy a couple of rivers so that they can get rock for a project, you wonder what you should do with that information, because there are licensed quarries that already exist. And economic activity, to say that it would make sense to just purchase material from an existing quarry instead of trying to tame and destroy a whole mountain. And there's been a lot of concern and consternation from professionals and from citizens who see this wanton destruction of our what is our precious treasure in Dominica. It's our greenery, our mountains, our rivers, and we see that just being taken down. And even when people raise concern, they seem to be just brushed aside. And so we look at that as we turn the year and decide how are we going to stop this government from continuing the destruction that they are meting out on the environment. I've asked the questions a few times. That question a few times. Like I keep getting calls to ask it again. Does does Dominica deserve Dominicans? I mean, what has Dominica done in her past that Dominicans are the ones who have been given charge of her? And I'm saying that because it is obvious that we are very neglectful of her treasures. We're very unappreciative of the gem that she is. So it's almost like a punishment on the island that we are the ones who are responsible for her preservation. So does Dominica deserve Dominicans? I mean, the flip side of the question is, does these Dominicans deserve Dominica with all of the water and the fresh air and the mountains and all those things that we seem to take for granted? Are we deserving? Are we deserving as a people of Dominica? And if we are, we need to prove it, right? We cannot stand by and watch an excavator and a bulldozer just go into the mountain next to one of our best rivers and just go in there and just grade like there's no plan. And we know the amount of rainfall, high rainfall that's in that area, and we just stand by and say nothing. Um, are we? Do we deserve to enjoy that wonderful island that we're on? A place that our ancestors won for us. They were enslaved and they survived brutality, they survived cruelty, and they wrestled that land from the enslavers and they passed it on to us, right? I mean, I'm sure there's folks that could have gone along and take their misery under slavery and just decide, let me cover, let me not draw attention to myself, and let me just live out my life as miserable as it is. They did not do that because they did not want their children to live under those circumstances. But then, just maybe 2 or 3 generations later, here we are about to give it back, give it up. And the question is, I mean, don't you want your children and your grandchildren to be able to enjoy what Dominica has to offer? So why aren't we, if we don't want to fight for it for ourselves, why don't we fight for it with our children in mind? We're living in a time where our allegiance to a party, a political party, our allegiance to a person, a political person, seems to trump everything else, right? What is that about? We don't like what is right. We don't support what is right anymore. We support what our party is doing, whether it's right or wrong. We support what that person is doing, whether it's right or wrong. How did we get there? It's almost as if you're a member of a party, they give you this uniform to put on, like almost like a prison uniform. You're like a prisoner. You wear this uniform, and that uniform identifies you as a labor right, as a supporter of United Workers Party, as a UPP right, or whatever the other party is. And because you have that uniform on, you cannot score in your own goal. Like you perceive that anything that you say that is not in total 100% alignment to that person that or that party that you like is like shooting in your own goal. When did you replace your religion with your party? Because it's nowadays people question their church and their religion more than ever. People question their spouse more than ever. People question their children more than ever. But when it comes to politics, we look for ways to justify and to make it make sense where it doesn't make sense. I posted something the other day on my Facebook page, just tongue in cheek. I said, Ja, it's so difficult to be a Labourite. And I was being cheeky, but I was also being serious because for you to continue to be a Labourite in Dominica, when you look at the atrocious job that the Labour Party government is doing in Dominica, you have to pretend to be brain dead. You have to pretend to not have part of your brain. Otherwise, how do you explain that? So, what is happening in Dominica? People are finding excuses for it, and it's simple. If you ask yourself, if this was United Workers Party in power and they were doing what they're doing in Dearborn, would you find it acceptable? Would you oppose it? Ask yourself that question. And when you answer that question for yourself, then you would know if you have on a prison uniform given to you by your political party, or if you're free and you feel mentally free. Ask yourself that, and be genuine with yourself. When you look around Dominica for the last multiple years, 5 years, 10 years, and so on, and you see the lack of opportunity for our young people as they become of age to stay in Dominica and to make a decent living. That staying in Dominica is not a sacrifice. Because some people will not leave no matter what. And I can understand that. If you've been to Dominica, you know that nobody will leave Dominica voluntarily, except for the lack of opportunity, lack of amenities, and the poor quality of life. When you look at that, you to ask yourself, if this was happening on the Freedom Party, if this was happening on the United Workers Party, would I find something wrong with it? And why am I not finding anything wrong with it? Because my party is in power. You have to understand that when you support a party, and this is what the party is presenting, you're actually supporting that mess. We have a wonderful, they say a wonderful hospital. I've seen videos of all of it. But yeah, we have a hospital that was upgraded, but we continue to see GoFundMe requests for help from people with a myriad of different medical conditions. We hear stories of people going to the hospital and they have to buy their diabetic medication from a private pharmacy so that when they go to the hospital, they can give it to the nurses so they can administer it to them. We know folks cannot afford to have the electricity on for the entire month. They go pay as you go. So if there is something to put on the fridge, like they buy some meat or they buy some whatever, they can top up and have their electricity work. We were not there 15, 20, 25 years ago. We were not there. How did we arrive at a spot where people have to call in because they don't have enough money to keep a steady supply of electricity in their home? They have to top up their electricity. And imagine that it's that bad that the electric company had to invest to put in the infrastructure that would allow that to happen. If all of that was happening in the country and it was not your party that was in power, would you find it okay, or would you think that they can do better? Those are the questions that we want to ask as the year turns. You know, um, we see the issue with the United States and the visa suspension. For those of you that don't know, United States have issued a temporary suspension on issuing visas to Dominicans. The other islands too, but Dominica is where we're concerned about. So that if you have a visitor's visa a B1, a B2 visa. When I came up here to study in the 80s, I had a J1 visa. They are suspending travel with those visas. So even if you have a visitor's visa and you board the plane and you arrive at the US port, it's a almost a 90% chance, even more, that you're not going to be allowed to enter the US. You're going to be sent back. I'm saying 90 because I know they have some very strict exceptions carved into it. So it's probably 95 or 96 more than 90. But you get my gist. If if that was another party in power and that was happening, how critical would you be? Would you give them a pass and say that they're trying their best and it's not their fault? That no matter what they do, America would try to stamp on them. Would you would you accept those same things that you're accepting if it was a United Workers Party or a Freedom Party government in power? So what I'm trying to say is we need to go back to really being in that independent mode, that independence of thought. You can support your party, you can support your political person. There's nothing wrong with that. And that is not in conflict with you seeing something that needs correction and pointing it out. Just point it out, you know? So if you see you love your daughter, you love your son, you love your husband, but everything they do is good, and no matter what it is, you're going to find a reason, an excuse, and a spin to justify it. That doesn't make sense. When I was growing up, my mother used to always have this story that she used to tell about a young boy who started going to school and he would come with a sharpener or a pencil that didn't belong to him. And his mother just looked the other way, and he grew into that habit of taking things that did not belong to him. Into his young adulthood, he would go and steal and bring it home, and his mother would enjoy whatever he brought him, never asking him or inquiring from him, where did you get that? Who does that belong to? Who gave this to you? And so on. And so they continued in that vein until, like they say, 99 days for the Raleigh and 1 day for the police. So he was eventually caught and handcuffed, and he was walking into court, and his mother was there, and he made gesture to his mother to come close so he could whisper something to her in her ear, and he took the opportunity to bite off a piece of his mom's ear and said, all this time I was bringing things home that didn't belong to me. If you had scolded me, if you had corrected me, I would not be in the hands of the police right now. And that moral of that story she had was to say, well, we have a duty to help the people who we say we love to understand when they're doing something that is not above board, something that is wrong, something that you think, and have a discussion. But if you just have blind allegiance to a party or to a person, you're not doing that person any favors. You're actually causing them to go along that road where eventually they're going to get to self-destruction. So that is what I want to appeal to you. I don't care to change anybody's mind. It's not my intention to try to convince you to believe something else. I would just want you to be more, how would you say, it, more curious. Don't let yourself be taken for granted that somebody knows that no matter what they do, it's good because it's me. I can do what I want. You're not going to do anything to me. Don't give somebody that power. Give yourself that power to be able to analyze and to inspect what is done to you in a relationship, whether political or personal, and ask those questions in a very clear way. And so it's not my intention to try to turn a Labour right into a non-Labour right. You can stay in the Labour Party. I'm just saying that if you value the concept that Dominica should be a place where we all should be able to enjoy living, and enjoying life and working and raising our families, if you think that that should be the objective, then ask yourself, is the performance of the Labour Party government for the last 25 years they've been in power, has it yielded satisfactory results? And if your answer is yes, then fine. You're happy and you're satisfied with what they've done. My list of achievements and yours doesn't have to be the same. We are two different people. So that's fine. If you look at it and you say, well, I like healthcare in Dominica, we have a top healthcare. I like the education system. I like our roads. I like, just go along your list and you say, I think they're doing the best that they can, the best that can be done. I always support your party. But if your answer is that the results we have are not what we should have, I'm not still not asking you to go against your government. I'm asking you to require a higher level of performance from them. That's all I'm asking. Let us let us know that we deserve more and we deserve better, and therefore the people that we take our energy, our money, our time, our voice to support, let us make sure that we have their respect, that they are at least trying. They are at least trying to make you believe that they have your best interest. So that's what I would say on that. It's 8:32, and I'm going to go to a quick commercial break. This is the first episode of This Week in Interview for the year 2026, and we're just just looking at the state of affairs that's happening locally in Dominica, in the region, in the U.S., and really seeing how can we get a different outcome, right? So let's take a break. When we come back, I'm going to continue this discussion, and we're going to talk about the visa restriction and what I think should be, or what is my reaction. I cannot say what your reaction should be, but I'll tell you what my reaction is to all of these visa bans. And if you do squeak through that little crack, small little tiny crack, and you get approved, then you have to put down a 15,000 US dollar bond, and you are restricted to enter the US through New York, Boston, or DC. That's what Dominicans are facing right now. So we'll talk about that more when we come back from the break. Stay tuned.
Running a radio station shouldn't be chaos. It should be simple, smart, and professional. With Joan Premium, your entire week schedule is beautifully organized and easy to manage. Real-time accuracy keeps your listeners in sync with every show. Your visitors and audience sees the right schedule every time, wherever they are. They can even choose different time zones. From analytics to social media and native app integration, Joan Premium is the professional tool your station deserves. You're never alone. We provide priority support for active license users. We're building a community. Connect with broadcasters worldwide through our Joan Community Hubs. Choose your plan, annual flexibility, or lifetime freedom. Get Joan Premium today. www.gndenterprisesinc.com or call 877-698-9894 for more information.
People say I've got a great smile. Well, I have to say, this is all thanks to the professional team at Beacon Dental Group right here in Dorchester, Massachusetts. I've got world-class dental care. Beacon Dental Group has expert and caring staff dedicated to providing the most advanced and satisfactory treatment in all aspects of oral health. Their services are designed to meet your needs and give you a perfect smile, too. General checkups, cosmetic surgery, Gemini laser service, and advanced procedures, all in a state-of-the-art facility. Call or visit Beacon Dental Group today, 1026 Blue Hill Avenue, Dorchester, Massachusetts, or call 617-282-2146 for a smile that lights the world.
Looking to promote your business, engage current customers, and reach new people? Well, look no further. From the basic presentation to a fully fledged advertisement, use your video ads to attract customers. At Man's Audiovisual Productions, we do just that. We produce videos for business and event promotions, product demo videos, animated explainer videos, fundraiser ads, and much, much more. Engage your clients and sell online. We customize the video to match your brand design. Guaranteed to play flawless on all devices, including smart TVs. Contact us at telephone number 203-690-4342 or 767-245-6238. Visit our website, mansaudiovisual.com, or email us at derekvideo@gmail.com.
All right, welcome back, folks, and thanks for staying with me through the break. Um, I see brother and good friend Alvin Thomas is backstage. I guess he'll be joining us shortly. But we want to say thank you to our sponsors for their support in 2025, and of course, we look forward to their continued and increased support in 2026. And as we were talking about, just what is it that we want to aspire as individuals, and as a country, as a people, as a region, in 2026, we cannot help but talk about the fortunes, what Dominica is finding itself subjected to lately. And I told you we talk about the destruction of the environment. The airport project in itself is such a huge environmental cost to the island. They're really cutting down a mountain and filling up valleys, and they took over an entire village, took these people's homes from them, and then turned around and went to their farms and took their farms from them. Talk, of course, talking about the village of Wesley, and just how many no proper EIA was done, so we don't even know what impact it has. What are the species that uh, had their home in those areas where they're cutting down the trees and they're stripping the soil bare? What kind of what species is existing in those habitats? We don't even know. Was there a plant in there that could have been the next cure for cancer? We don't know because nobody is doing a study before we go in there and cut down this virgin forest. And so if I spend the first half just imploring you to be more intentional in your thoughts, more intentional in the things that you support. As I said, I have no investment in changing anybody's mind, especially politically. I'm not here to convince you to not be a Labourite anymore or to support the Freedom Party or United Workers' Party. All I want you to do is to examine your own thoughts. Ask yourself, if this was happening and it was a United Workers' Party government in power, would I have no issues with it the way I have now? Would I be so comfortable with it going on the radio and on social media and so on, defending it, if it was a different government or a different person? Can I look at myself in the mirror in full conscience and say, yes, my reaction now would be the same reaction I would have if it was a different government in power, because I believe that what is being done is genuinely being done for the benefit of Dominica and Dominicans. My brother Alvin, welcome to the discussion. It's a pleasure to have you. First game of the year, and you joining me at the crease to help keep our listeners be the most informed um, listenership anywhere on social media, on media period. Welcome, my brother. Happy New Year.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Welcome and happy new year to you and
Thank
TDN
you. Hmm.
and the entire team at TDN. 2026. Hope 2026 will be a very productive year for each of you personally and for TDN Radio. I must go on record to express my gratitude and my appreciation to the entire staff, including Sam, my good friend Sam, for always facilitating us. You did that very well in 2025 and have begun doing it just as well in 2026. So it's always my pleasure to come on here and to help Tony. The intention really is to have a conversation.
Hmm.
As you rightly said a few minutes ago, the intention is not to persuade or try to force anybody into any particular position, but to provide information. And once you have information, now you, the individual, have a responsibility to use that knowledge to your benefit and to the wider society. As I've always said, no man is an island, and I think we have to recognize that even more in light of all these recent developments we see taking place within our region. Realize that individually we cannot tackle those issues on our own. We need a collective approach, and I think what I see coming out of this U.S. policies as it relates to the visas, the restriction, I think now it puts that organization we call CARICOM in a position now to demonstrate the metal that they're made of.
Demonstrate why they exist.
Why they exist, exactly. It's no longer a situation where they go on those meeting strip and, have their champagnes and all your thing. The realities, the hard realities of the region and the world is coming to our face now. And how we respond and how they respond to it as leaders representing the interests of us, the people in the region, is going to be very interesting. Very interesting. So, but like they always said, when you're given a lemon, you make what? Lemonade out of it?
You make
Or you
marmalade.
marmalade? Which one? You
Which one, right?
choose what you want to do with it.
Mm.
But I think in light of all what is unfolding, we must also try and see the opportunities, if any, there is. I read a very interesting article today from the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley. And it is very interesting, though, very interesting. He started off by saying the recent news from our friends and neighbors, United States of America, reinforces a new approach to immigration, not just in the United States, but across the developed world. And I think it's a very interesting article. If you have some time, you should read it. One of the things he said,
Where is it published?
I think he has it published under his Facebook page.
Who's the
I can
person?
always email you a copy because I sort
I
of
want the audience to get it. Who's the person you said?
Mark Brantley. Mark is the
Mark
Premier
Franklin.
of Nevis.
Mhm. Okay.
But a very interesting article. Not a very long article. I think it's worth reading.
Mhm.
And one of the things he said there, for example, is that he went on to say, for example, each morning we in the Caribbean wake to more breaking news. Yesterday, it was small states being forced to accept deportees from third countries. Today, it is that immigrant visa processing for some Caribbean state that has been suspended by the U.S. That came out today, where 75 countries, including Dominica, immigrant visas processing has been suspended indefinitely. Now, as you know, Tony, there is a difference between an immigrant visa and a non-immigrant visa. Immigrant visa is someone who either you filing for your children, your son, your daughter, your mother filing for you, brother filing for brother, sister. That's considered an immigrant visa
Immigrant
where you
visa.
get your green card.
Right.
Non-immigrant visa is like the B1, B2,
A visitor.
student visa, J1, visitors visa, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So Dominica currently, as we speak, has a partial ban on both immigrant and non-immigrant up to 180 days, which is 6 months. Okay. Then we also have what you call visa bond that ranges anywhere from 5,000, 10,000, or 15,000 US dollars. Now, today, our name showed up on the list of the 75 countries that have an indefinite ban or suspension, rather, not ban, suspension on immigrant visa. So, the first proclamation that had us for 180 days for immigrant and non-immigrant, with the hope that after the 180 days, we might be able to get back to things again. We're now being told today that the immigrant visa ban, or suspension rather, I want to use the word suspension, is indefinite. So what that means is that Dominica has a non-immigrant visa restriction for up to 6 months, 180 days. So no Dominican can apply for a visa. All right. And now, as of today, based on that issuance from the Secretary of State, the department, no Dominican, the processing of any immigrant visa. So, in other words, if someone has the application in,
Right.
waiting on the interview, or the mother wants to file for the child who is under a certain age, because you know there's an age factor for children, that has been suspended indefinitely.
Indefinitely. But Alvin, I want to move a little bit beyond that. Okay. Because I want to see what my reaction is. I I know there is some temporary pain, and I'm not diminishing the pain because some people have to travel for health reasons. So there's a number of people who might meet their demise, who might actually die. People might lose loved ones because they cannot get to come to the US for medical attention that they probably can only get access to in the US. So that is serious. We hear stories of people who have, like their daughter had a child and they wanted to come to assist their daughter. It's a tradition in the Caribbean. Your daughter has a child, her mother comes and helps out in the first couple of months to help her to learn how to take care of her baby, but also to give her a little bit of relief so she has some time for herself. That's out the window. We have folks who had been accepted at universities and they probably have taken a loan or they have the money or they make down payments and now they cannot come to start school and so on. So I'm not trying to diminish the pain. That is pain, financial, emotional, and so on. However, however, I am one of those folks who always measure the development of our country based on the amount of migration of our people out of that country. Right? So I always say that I will see a successful government in one of those islands when the people of that island don't feel like they need to go live somewhere else to be able to make a decent living, to be able to provide opportunity for their children and for themselves. Okay. Where am I going with this? I am saying that despite the bitter taste that it has right now, if the result is that our people in the Caribbean or people in Dominica are now going to tie their waist, so to speak, and to say, well, the escape hatch that I thought I had to go to the US, that is not an option anymore. I need to make this place suitable for me to make my living here. If that is the result that comes 5 years, 10 years down the road, I think the pain that we're going through right now would have been worth it. What do you think?
No, I totally agree with you, Tony. I am in 100% agreement with that. And as a matter of fact, that is exactly what the Premier of Nevis, the Honorable Mark Brantley, is raising in his article that I referred to earlier. Because he goes on to say there, at each announcement, the people of the Caribbean all or bawl in dismay and blame their leaders. Regional leadership wrings its hand with cries of woe is me. And the usual statement is issued that we are engaging diplomatically to resolve issues. A certain level of hysteria is setting in, almost as if Caribbean people think themselves stateless and homeless.
Right.
And then he goes on to say the truth, though, is that for too long, developed countries around the world, particularly the United States, Canada, and the United Kingdom, and parts of Europe, has benefited from migration to those countries of the best and the brightest mind from the Caribbean and the rest of the developed world. This phenomenon, referred to as the brain drain,
Mm-hmm.
has contributed to the advancement of those countries while simultaneously depriving the Caribbean of the contribution that such persons could have made to original development. So I here propose a different regional approach. Do not be dismayed by the new immigration policies of the United States and others. Every country has the right to set its own immigration policy. America is doing what it deems to be the best interest of America. The Caribbean should embrace the opportunity that this new approach presents for the region. We should, one, reorient our thinking as a region and as a people,
Mm-hmm.
and start to look for opportunities within the Caribbean, Latin America, our motherland, Africa, and the global south. Two, send out a call for those in our vast diaspora to come back home to lend their talents to the Caribbean development. Three, let the message resonate from the shores of Miami to the mountains of New York that the Caribbean is calling its people to come home. Make land available and develop a range of fiscal incentives to encourage our people to return home. In Nevis, for example, we offer returning university graduates land at $1 EC per square foot. You hear that?
Wow.
$1 EC per square foot. Tell our people when you're coming, bring your wealth with you, bring your ideas with you, bring your entrepreneurial spirit with you, bring your training with you, bring your education, insight, and innovation with you. Sell your home in Brooklyn and buy a home in Bridgetown. Sell your shares on the New York Stock Exchange and buy shares on the Eastern Caribbean Stock Exchange. Transfer your bank accounts from Bank of New York to Bank of Nevis. Create a great opportunity for intra-regional migration, business establishment, investment, and travel. Miami is fabulous, but so too is Castries and Kingston. Let the crisis become an opportunity to shift our generational brain drain into a brain gain. A brain gain.
Mm-hmm.
Let us not become unwanted guests in foreign land. It's time for people to come home. So that answers what you just said. And Tony, let's face it, you and I are from Dominica. And I have heard time again when a Dominican wants to go back home and the kind of hassle that they go through.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you can only bring one vehicle. So if you and your wife go in, they'll only give you duty free on one vehicle. They'll tell you, well, you bring a few furniture, stuff you may have in the US, or you buy one little stuff. They want to charge you an arm and a leg duty. You have to go through all kind of red tape. You're trying to build a home is another red tape. So the point remains now, it behoves the leaders now to recognize this thing. Because there are a lot of us in America, once we get to a certain age, a certain level of our lives, we have done it all. We've gone to school, we've gone to university, we have got a degree, we're doing well, we got a little income. We want to go back home and do something back home.
Mm-hmm.
But the environment and the
Is
leaders
not
do
is
not
not welcoming.
make it
It's not
conducive
welcoming at
enough for
all.
us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see? So I think the point remains in every situation like what is presenting itself now has opportunity.
Yep.
I mean, you referenced the motherland. I saw a report a couple of days ago that projected that by 2030, I think it is, Africa will move from a 1.6 billion population to well over 2 billion population. Africa.
Africa. Mm-hmm.
2 billion. Okay. Um, America population is just shy of 370 something million people.
And it's
They're not
scheduled
even
to
half a billion.
and it's scheduled to decrease.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they're not even half a billion, which is 500 million. Okay. Now, you know now that you can jump on a flight from Barbados directly to Ghana. Well, with one or two maybe connections, depending,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to Ghana, to Nigeria, to any one of these African countries. And don't underestimate the technology, the innovation, the business entrepreneurship, all of that is developing in Africa. While some people might want to show you that Africa is just a poor whatever country, those of us who have visited Ghana, South Africa, Nigeria, any one of them, yes, they do have their leadership problem as well, which you need to fix. But the point I'm trying to make is that here you have an opportunity. The same way they took our forefathers from Africa 400 years ago, put us in a boat and take us all the way to the Caribbean to plant cane and to cut cane and sugar and molasses and cotton and you name it. I think given where the situation is now, it would not take us 6 weeks on a boat from Africa to Dominica, Barbados, or St. Vincent. We can, within a day or two, jump on a plane, go to Africa, and do business as a Caribbean.
Mm-hmm.
And think of your African market, how large a market that is. So the point remains there's opportunity. I think that's why I said earlier, the CARICOM leaders must now get their act together, and they must say, the Prime Minister of Barbados and Dominica and St. Lucia and St. Vincent, what is it that you have you can offer a St. Lucian or Barbadian or Dominican or Trinidadian or Vincentian who wants to come back home, who is a doctor, an accountant, a lawyer, a nurse, you name it, that will entice them that they can come back and reverse that brain drain. And like I said, have African market as our market.
As a market, and really develop that strength. The same way you go on vacation in New York in the summer, go to an African country. There's all the trade.
Exactly.
There's trade happening there as well. There's magnificent
Absolutely.
textiles. There's all kind of business in all of these cities
Everything,
in Africa.
everything.
Everything that you could get in the US, you can get
Fashion,
it in cities in
technology,
Africa. Mhm.
cuisine, you name it. Everything is in the motherland Africa.
And so the reaction really should be, well, if you want your place to yourself, fine. We don't need it. As I said, because of the way things are structured, now we'll go through a period of 1 or 2 years of pain because of medical. But if you know that you have to have your surgery in your country, guess what? You're going to demand that your government have a state-of-the-art hospital.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's
And
be-
we have, Tony, not only that, Tony, we have now as we speak, Dominicans, fully and well top of the class doctors in America
mhm,
in all fields.
all fields. Yeah,
So if we have a state of the art hospital, we can have a person like Dr. Dale Danglaben working in Dominica
yeah,
or working in the region. That's his base.
that's his
He
base.
has a base of how many million people working in the region. So he's a doctor that can traverse between Dominica, Barbados, and Lucia, St. Vincent, Grenada, in the region.
And the same thing for any profession.
Any profession.
Any
You as an
profession.
engineer,
Yeah, and the same
you
thing.
know.
And so
And
what?
and the best part about it, Tony, guess what? We don't have to deal with winter and snow, and cold.
Exactly, exactly. People pay big money to
We have
come and spend
sunshine
time in
throughout.
in our in
Yeah, we
our
got
area.
we
Mhm.
got we are vulnerable to hurricanes, but with the technology, with the brains that we have, we will be in a position to mitigate some of that as well.
Exactly, exactly. We can come with the training that we got from the US. We can come with the training that we got from the US and really build up the Caribbean. So for example, I take myself for example. I have a lot of training and experience in construction management in the US.
Yes.
I see construction going on in Dominica and low hanging fruits that can make a huge
Hmm.
difference, right?
Hmm.
But we're not given the opportunity. I
Exactly.
will. I tell you, the time I went to Dominica last year, I'm I'm a past student of the Dominica Grammar School. When I saw the way the project was going on in grammar school, I made contact with people who know people in the government, and I offered my services. I'm like, these projects are not going the way on projects of that magnitude, there's certain things that should be going on. You just don't see it. You don't see no safety precaution. You don't see the site is not organized in a way for you to know that construction is happening the way it should happen. And lo and behold, a couple of months went by, and the roof of the grammar school collapsed.
Right.
We have people who know what they're doing, who are more than willing to have the expertise
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
country.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, some people might perceive it to be not in their interest to give us the opportunity to contribute to Dominica.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe should I say to empower us
Mm-hmm.
to use our knowledge for the benefit of our country. And so that should change. People of the region now has a reason, an opportunity to stand up and to
Yeah.
demand from their leaders and from their governments that all of that resource that we have out there in the diaspora, we should not only benefit from it from the occasional barrel that we send down or
Right.
the occasional Western Union. We can really benefit from having us there in person. I mean, what is the engineering standard in Dominica? Is there a registry? If somebody show up tomorrow and say I'm an engineer, do you just allow them to work as an engineer? Is there a
Right.
process where you can check their license or check their qualifications before you release them on the public to go design homes and roads and whatever else and factories and so on? And all of those things are things that we learn from living in these first world countries
Right.
that we can come and superimpose on our countries that can really improve the quality of life of our people. And so I really wanted to talk about that tonight to really tell our people, don't be in despair. Yes, there's short-term pain. Yes, there are negative consequences. But I want to tell you to look at it as the opportunity for us to develop our countries so that our people can have a quality of life that they deserve without having to migrate. I mean, we at 9 o'clock, so I'm going to allow you to make a few more statements and then we have to wrap it up. But
Sure.
I
Sure.
really, I think this is such an important discussion that we'll have more than one discussion
Sure.
on it,
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah. No, no, I think and I think you mentioned the barrel a while ago and the remittances. And I know, for example, that in Dominica's case, if I recall, um, I think it was for 2023, I believe, thereabout. Dominicans may have remitted something like in the region of close to 50 million US dollars by
Wow.
way of remittances.
Wow.
I just did a quick calculation on my calculator there. If you take, for example, 100,000 um, Caribbean nationals in the US right now, just 100,000, and each of them pulled out, let's say, 12,000 US dollars out of their account and transmit that into a development fund in the Caribbean. You're talking about a $1.2 billion US, 12,000 US dollars by 100,000. That's close to about 1.2 billion US. Now, just imagine that you put that in a Caribbean stock exchange or in a fund, a development fund that grows, and aim towards development. You know, you can see the impact that could have. So I don't think we should sell ourselves short. Yes, we would love to continue being and having relationship with the United States, somewhere we have had for a number of years, and most of our persons have migrated there. Um, um, but I don't think we, as the Premier of Snevis said, we should not see it as something where we don't have a fallback position. I
Right.
think we
Alvin,
do.
one of the members of the audience has a point he's making. He says the opportunity has always been there. I just think we are missing the point. The global economic structure, no matter where you are, depends greatly on the American global infrastructure, even Africa. So going to Africa still doesn't change that. How would you respond to that?
Well, my response to that, there may be some, how should I put it? I wouldn't dismiss his statement completely, but what I will say to him is that one, 10 years ago, maybe, well, maybe a little more than that, 15 years ago, even 20 years ago, we looked at China as a complete different place than what it is today. China was a poor country, poor, nothing to shout about. Today, based on the change of direction and policies that the president of China, the one, what's his name before this one who is here now, implemented, and where they sort of introduce a mix of capitalism and socialism. They inject some sort of capitalism. China now is a superpower. Yes, America may still boast of being a military power, but don't underestimate China. China is a powerful, powerful country today. Powerful. And even today, every 90% of the products that we consume in America, cars, clothes, furnitures, you
Everything.
name it,
Even
made
the tie that says Donald Trump is made in China.
where do you see it? Made in
Made in
China.
China. Yep. Yep.
And to the extent where China now is giving, and Donald, the President Trump came with this tariff and all that stuff. So the point I want to make is that um, Africa must not be underestimated. And in any economy, in any capitalistic economy, where you have a population of a 1.6 billion, which is what Africa has, and is likely to grow, as I said, somewhere around 2 billion by 2030. You cannot underestimate that. If you capture that population properly, you have enough people, you have enough land, you have enough resources, and that's the other thing. China, some of the cell phones and all what we use in America and everywhere else, where you think the main resource that goes into what you call it to produce its cell phone comes from? Africa.
Yeah.
Gold, diamond, ruby, water, you name it.
So
So if we're able to leverage, ourselves in the region and take advantage of the situation, then I don't think it is all lost. Bear in mind, and let me just make the final point, Tony. Europe, United States, all of those countries developed on the backs of black slaves and black people that were in the region that, as I said, plant sugarcane, plant cotton, plant limes. Eventually we went to bananas. This is what that developed Europe.
yep.
You hear me? When the boat came and the boat takes all the sugarcane and all thing and take it back up to Europe, that is what I think. Who was it? One of the author who says, um, how he wrote a book. How trying to remember the title of the book. How Europe
Or
underdeveloped Africa.
underdeveloped Africa. Yeah.
Yes, something to that effect.
Yeah.
So Africa is still a very resourceful country, despite what people might want to
It's
say.
the most resourceful country in the
Okay,
world. There's so much
and
that happens that would not happen if there was no Africa.
and let me just pivot quickly on Dominica. Dominica, at the moment where we stand, there are three resources that Dominica have that they can leverage very well. People, we have a very resilient and strong and hardworking people, despite what is happening now, and people may have certain attitudes. We have land. The little land that we have is very fertile land, and we have that thing you call water. You see that thing they call water, Tony? We've had a discussion on your program already. Right now, water is the most precious resource on the face of the earth. That thing you call water. I think Dice have a song, Water is Life. And we still got abundance of water. Countries like Saudi Arabia and all these big countries that have trillions of dollars and have all that oil, they're prepared now to trade some of that for water
For water.
because of the scarcity of water. And Dominica is still blessed with that. And if we can leverage these three together, our land, our people, and our water, I think we'll be in a good position to leverage how we position ourselves, not just in the region, but the wider world.
So yeah, I mean, so I want to address the the member of the audience, Dep, that he's making a point that seems to say that all roads go through the U.S. And I'm not necessarily objecting to that, but what I'm saying is that let's look at Dominica. Dominica has, I don't know, 50, 60,000 people. We have one hospital. What would it cost to make that hospital a state-of-the-art hospital? With all the equipment that we need, and as you said, we have the experts overseas that can come down if in the meantime that we look into staff it to full-time staff. One hospital.
Mm-hmm.
What do we need the US for in terms of healthcare if we have that one hospital? And if we match that with the rest of the region, where if we were doing it properly, you could have specializations in different islands, and so people could
Correct.
travel among the
Correct.
islands based on
Correct.
what they are. But I'm not even going there as yet. I'm talking about
I know.
immediately. If we make the hospital in Dominica
State of the
be the
art.
best it can be,
Yeah.
so that only super serious conditions we would not be able to tackle immediately. But the average stroke and the average heart problem or bone or whatever it is that we have, our hospitals should be able to do that. Or education. What does it take to look around Dominica and see what are the industries that you have, like you say, water. Okay, we have land in agriculture, food production, and so on. We have our people. We can provide services. What does it take to have a group of people that looks around and then create a curriculum in our education system that allows us to be able to educate our people?
But Tony, you know, those of us who study in the US, you know the caliber of students when we come from the
Exactly.
Caribbean. But we
Exactly.
just kick ass with
Yeah,
all the American students in all universities.
exactly. And so what the point I'm making is that I'm not saying that we don't need the US. I'm saying that if we deploy our resources more strategically,
Mm-hmm.
our people have less of a need to migrate.
Mm-hmm.
Period. We can trade. We can do whatever we do with the US and with our neighbors and so on. But we can do it on a more equal and respectful footing because
Mm-hmm.
we're not coming with our hands behind
Behind
our
our
back
back,
or
tied.
wringing our hands.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
can even invite Americans to come down in terms of
Mm-hmm.
medical tourism. Come
Mm-hmm.
over here. We have all these facilities, hot springs that you can use to recover when you have your surgery and you have your what. So I'm not suggesting that we can just box out America and this, but I'm saying that we can organize our country in such a way that
Yep.
the only option that a young person feel that they have is to migrate.
Right.
And this situation gives us the opportunity to look at those
To
opportunities and
revisit,
to
relook. Yeah,
reorganize
yeah,
our education curriculum,
yeah,
all right, our education curriculum, our industry. If we need
yeah.
welders, why don't we have a technical school where we train welders, carpenters, masons? We
Our
have a
trade and
technical school,
diplomacy.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
project management, and so on and so on. What is wrong that we cannot have a shipbuilding industry in Portsmouth or in the north? Why, and all of
But
those
but
things I
but
think that we
Tony,
can look at.
400 years ago, they were putting us black people on a boat from the west coast of Africa and take us to Dominica and the Caribbean islands to cut cane.
Yeah,
400 years ago. The technology now has so much improved. Why can we have a ship that can ship our produce from the Caribbean to Africa
Africa,
or vice
exactly.
versa?
No, vice versa.
400 years ago, they were on a ship.
And we'll
It took
find
us
that
how
we have
many?
so much more in common when we get them, you know.
Exactly.
Right. But Alvin, we're going beyond, and I'm going to
We need to have a part two.
I'm going to wind up. Yes, we will. We will, because this things is hot and it's fresh.
Oh yeah.
Next week I'm going to do our third Wednesday of every month. We have our food production
Mhm.
program. So we're going to do that next Wednesday. But the following week we can pick up. Also, I offered Alex Bruno to come on once a month, and we can talk politics and economics and so on. So I have to follow up with him, and that's something we will do in the new year. Because that's what I like to do. I like to talk politics.
Oh yeah.
Alex like to talk. So
Yeah, I'd
uh,
love to engage. I'd love to be
yeah,
on a conversation with Alex as well, part of that panel, because my good friend Alex. Yeah.
yeah. And
Um,
so let's
but
wrap up. Let's
yeah.
wrap up. Like, give your closing statements, and then
Yeah.
we need to
Well,
wrap up.
Tony, again, like let me just thank you. It's always a pleasure and a great pleasure. Thanks for the opportunity to share some of my thoughts, my ideas on the program with you and with the listeners. And we encourage the net pasca packet, sorry,
Packet. Uh-huh.
net packet, my friend. I think there was another person earlier who made a comment. I didn't get a chance to read all of it.
Miss Bertrand, and then
Miss
my family were and saying good
Try,
evening.
yeah,
Net
yeah,
were
yeah.
and
To all of
Didi,
you,
Didi
uh,
Easter also made some.
Didi, that's
Yeah.
right, that's right. Just want to say thank you and to wish all of you a very positive 2026. And let's not be dismayed and feel the world has come to an end with what's happening. I think it challenges each of us now to think outside the box, as they generally say. Let's think outside the box. And if this thing is if this thing is happening, how do we respond? In what way do we respond? So again, thanks, Tony. Appreciate you and everyone else. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the weekend. Stay safe and let's stay positive and focused.
Uh, Thank you, Alvin, and thank you for coming on and having this discussion with me. And of course, the folks in the audience, thank you for your participation. Nep, you probably need to come on the program. Let's talk about this. I like the contribution that he made. I think
Oh yeah.
I don't
Oh
think
yeah.
he's saying anything that we're not
No,
saying.
no, 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 no,
I
no, no,
think
no,
he
no,
was
no.
is
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
but
I,
but
I I think we're singing from the same hymn sheet. I'm
the,
just tenor and he's bass and you are maybe alto, what is it, soprano,
the
whatever.
soprano. I'm shouting on
Soprano,
the
soprano. But I think we're singing from the same hymn sheet, just a
the
different level. Yeah,
yeah. The idea is that we it's not what happens to us, it's how we react.
absolutely, absolutely.
And so I am suggesting that when we look at all of what is being said, at the end of the day, we are a country.
Hmm.
And as a country, we should be self sufficient.
Right.
And so our reaction would be to double our effort at self sufficiency. I
Hmm.
mean, you talk about water being a resource in Dominica. Do you know we import water?
I know, I know.
Yeah.
And do you know how much of that waste, that good water that's just going in the sea every day?
In the meantime, we're importing purified water.
And you know how
Uh,
many people around the world that want water and cannot get it
right.
and
So
died
so
as a result of lack of water,
So
fresh
the
drinking water.
easiest the easiest and lowest hanging fruit be to make ourselves self sufficient in water. That we don't have to be importing water. We should be a net exporter of water. That is a no brainer. Same
Right,
thing for food.
right,
With the amount of fertile land that we have and favorable rainfall and sunshine and hardworking people, we should not need to import food. Dominica should be the
right,
breadbasket of the Eastern Caribbean. We should be a net exporter of food. We do those two things, we're well on our way. We have brilliant,
I
intelligent, and
remember
well
I remember as a little boy, Tony, Salisbury was a big producer of tomatoes. Salisbury.
tomatoes,
That just one
watermelon,
family.
all those vegetables and so on. Yeah,
Why should we be importing tomatoes in Dominica?
tomatoes. Yeah. So and so the idea is that we just have to pick our 3 or 4 or 5 and make ourselves self-sufficient. And we feel like a surplus that we can export. That should be our first and immediate reaction. Our islands are not another stock farm. They treated us like animals, like livestock, while we were enslaved. And we continue the process because what we do is have kids, give them the base of their education, and then export them so they can go develop somebody else's country. So we continued that process of slavery where they treated us as livestock. I'm saying no, we have our people. We have to create an environment where our people can stay in our country and develop our own country so that we have what was making us a wonderful place is that you had grandmother, mother, grandchild, and great grandchild all in the same little yard,
Mm-hmm.
and so you have that human relation
Mm-hmm.
that research is now showing
Mm-hmm.
up that one of the main factors of longevity and quality of life is personal relation. but
Absolutely.
but when you have people migrating, and even when they migrate, one is in New York, one is in Texas,
Separation
one
of
is
family, no
you don't
connection,
have
no
that,
bonding.
and so our quality of life is totally decimated. We can go back, as Chubby said, to the milk and honey
Mm-hmm.
that was our life from before. It's not wishful thinking. It's actually very, very, very um, practical. Very, very practical. All right. So Alvin, thank you again.
All right.
And let's do this soon.
Sure.
I wish you and everybody else in your circle a wonderful
Thank
2026.
you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Be safe.
All
All
right,
right.
thanks.
Good night.
Good
Yeah.
night. And
Mhm.
so, listeners, also, I want to wish you, as I said at the start of the show, a very wonderful 2026. We're starting off, and this is where we want to be bold this year to put our positions forward and to inspire you to take action. We boldness, I think, should be our watchword for 2026. Let's not allow ourselves to just be taken for granted because um, people know that they have our allegiance no matter what. Let's empathize with our fellow laborites in Dominica, who I say that it's difficult to be a laborite because every week there's a new thing that's coming out that that's supposed to make it difficult for you to stay loyal, but you have to find a way to stay loyal. So I empathize with you, but I'm also telling you it's okay to let your leaders know that they can and they should do better. So on that note, I'm going to say good night and thank you to the team for putting this program together. Thank you for my guest Alvin. And next week, we'll be doing our first installment for 2026 on food production and regenerative, sustainable agriculture. Good night, folks, and enjoy the rest of the week.